Okay. So anyway, we're going to be doing sustainability, and it's kind of a big deal. And I've been reading the Merit Badge book, as has Charlotte, and so we have a little bit of a head start on y'all. But let's go ahead and start. What do you guys? I'm going to write it down. So we're going to kind of go through this what they call brainstorming. So we'll start off with Ian. And what do you think sustainability means?
Sustainability means to be able um, to be able to have to use something for a period of time without running out of it, or to be able to use it. Um,
Okay, so
that's it.
okay, able to have or use something for some time without running out. What do you think, Lindsay?
My definition of like sustainability,
What do you think it is? Yeah.
um, using our like the resources available to us in a way that we're not exhausting them permanently, that they're not doing like unreversible damage to our environment.
I'm trying to write fast. Not so good. Okay, Kate and Addie.
The ability to be able to provide for oneself.
Addie?
I was gonna say that, but
No, you weren't.
yes, I was.
You asked
Oh,
for the
you
best
weren't. You were going to say something different.
No, I
answer.
wasn't.
You were gonna say a better answer.
You were definitely going to say
Crank it
something
out,
better
Laurel.
than that, Addie.
Um, to be able to thrive off of what you have.
Not a girl.
Okay, those are interesting and actually pretty good. They're maybe not quite as complete as the modern thought processes are about sustainability. This is something that was in the Merit Badge book, which I thought was kind of interesting. And if you break it into people and prosperity, which that means is standard of living, having the access to, let's say, running water or having access to clean air, that kind of stuff, TV, broadband, yada, yada, yada. And then the planet and the environment. So the environment obviously is trees, water resources, air, growing stuff, that kind of stuff. They all kind of intersect, which is kind of interesting. When you look at the people equity and prosperity economic, then what you're actually looking to is a social economic. In other words, it's not sustainable if everybody doesn't have access to the resources that can keep them alive and going. Okay, there has to be a social economic balance too between that, and that's kind of hard, but that's kind of one of the things you have to have for people, equity for people, and the planet environment. Again, you have to have a social environment where it's going to work for people and the environment. So there has to be the understanding within the community that we have to maintain our planet for future generations, etc. Okay, and for the planet and the environment, well, there is an economic environment, and it's a pretty massive driver for everything. And the economic driver is, golly, let's pull out the gas, let's pull out the oil, let's pull out the gold, let's pull out the coal, let's burn down all the trees in the Amazon so we can make a little bit more farmland. Let's actually take the trees and cut them all down so we can turn them into boards. That's an economic environment where you're actually rewarding, or you can reward, behaviors that are not sustainable. Okay, I mean, that sounds a little bit academic, but that's kind of what it is. If you put all those together, then this is sustainability right here. This is where they all kind of come together in a sweet spot. And boy, I tell you what, that's kind of hard. Okay, so one of the things we have to kind of understand about sustainable is it's not just our community. It's great if our community is sustainable. Yeah. Hey, it's wonderful if our country is sustainable. But how sustainable is our country going to be if other countries aren't? Because almost every war that's been fought in the history of the world has been fought over resources. And, you know, if you don't have the resources, when you want to go and get them, if someone else has got them, well, what's to lose? You know, if you don't have enough food to feed yourself, you're going to go try to take over someone who does. So anyway, there's a lot of different aspects to sustainability, but really it has to do with a lot with what you were saying. It's the long-term renewable use of what our planet can provide us. In other words, we don't run out of stuff. And a lot of that is really kind of funny, because if you think about how we use hydrocarbons right now, we're pumping them out and we're using them up. When they're gone, they're gone. Okay, it takes millions of years to make an oil well. And when we pump them all down, they're gone. Are there other ways to get fuels? Oh, absolutely. I mean, I know many ways to get fuels. Are they as cheap as punching a hole in the ground and sucking it up and running it through a plant? Probably not as cheap as that, but we can do it. So there's a lot of things that go into this sustainability concept. But almost all of it has to do with us as a society and as a world understanding that we have to be able to create and maintain something that's going to be able to live beyond us. And if the only thing we care about is ourselves, then you can't make things that are sustainable. That's for sure. Okay, so let's review this again. Able to have or use something for some time without running out. Yeah, absolutely. But when you run out, then it's not sustainable. Using our resources, do not exhaust permanently and no permanent damage. Okay, so that's pretty close. But what you want to do is you want to have those resources, if possible, be renewable. So it's an evergreen source of resources. The ability to provide for oneself, for everyone else. That's a very key point. If you can't provide for yourself and the community can't provide for itself, there's no way it can be sustainable. And yes, to survive off what we have. And that is, all those together are pretty good, okay? That's not bad. Okay, so now we're going to go to this second part of this. Explain how you think conservation and stewardship of our natural resources relate to sustainability. So I'll start with Addison.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Explain how you think conservation and stewardship of our natural resources relates to sustainability.
Because of course we have like limited resources sometimes, and
I'm not helping you this time,
I
little girl.
know.
Well, she did good. She said limited resources, so she's working towards it.
Because we have limited resources and you need to conserve them. You can't just blow through them, you know?
You have to save your resources because they're non-renewable.
Yeah. Well, some resources are non-renewable, and some are.
Like wind and water. Don't say that, they're mine.
Hey, your turn, Tate. You say it.
We have to preserve our resources like fuel and natural gas because they're non-renewable. Kind of like how when we can use wind energy and water energy because they are renewable. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. We'll come back and talk about it. How about you, Ian?
The conservation and stewardship of our natural resources relate to sustainability because when you conserve and stewardship your resources, you you are making sure you're not using things that you don't need. You take only what's needed, and you make sure that you have been taking care of it so that it doesn't run out and you can sustain yourself off of it.
Okay, I think I got a lot of that. I'm not 100% sure, but I tried. Lindsay.
That's kind of like a super broad question.
It's super broad, but you're going to be able to knock it down in about 2 sentences.
No, I'm not.
I guess you are, because that's all I can write.
I don't know how to explain it really, but
Well, explain it. We'll just parse it in.
conservation and stewardship are important to sustainability because part of our natural world, I think, needs to be preserved and kept as like something that is not used for resources, but is just there as like, I guess it could be used up as like super backup resources in
Yeah,
case.
it's a reserve. Okay, that's what it is. It's
Like, yeah, the natural world is a reserve because if we try and use everything on our planet as a resource and we took no care in preserving any of that through conservation, then our planet would fall apart pretty quickly. I feel like.
yeah, it kind of is. Okay, so that's a very interesting concept. Leaving a portion of the natural world alone as a reserve, as a bioreserve, is basically kind of what you're saying. Let me put a bio in there. Because a lot of people think that is super important. Because, and I think that's what you're saying is the diversity is much greater in the natural world than it is in what we do. And so if we lose all diversity, then things become more like a monoculture. Like a good example of that is bananas. You know, back in the 1800s when they first brought out bananas, they had a particular variety that people liked. So what they did is they cloned all those banana trees. So all the bananas you bought were all one type out of one tree. They're just all cloned. Well, guess what happened? They had a bug that just loved that kind of banana. And so they wiped out all the banana trees. And so they developed another, not as tasty a banana. And that's the ones we have right now. And that became a big old monoculture. Everything's out of the same banana, the same genetics, it's actually the same plant. And what's happening right now in South and Central America and Hawaii is there's a bug going after all those banana trees. And so the same thing's going to happen again. We're going to wipe out the entire banana supply, and they're going to have to come up with another one. Well, that's not a very sustainable way of growing bananas, is it?
So what you're saying is, at one point, we had bananas that tasted better than the ones we have now.
Oh, absolutely. That's sad, isn't it, Ian?
Absolutely, I want tasty bananas.
I know they still have some of those. They preserved the genetics of it, and they're grown like in hothouses in places where they don't get the bugs. But yeah, it's good. Well, actually, the way I was thinking about that's good. When I think about natural resources related to sustainability, I guess I'm thinking of some of the big ones like water, like soil, like forests. Like, you know, the big ones, like food. These are the kinds of things which I'm sort of thinking about when we're talking about it. So food, that's one of the things you're going to be doing. Actually, we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about aspects of it and working on that. But to me, is I'm going to write that down too, is we have to preserve our food resources, our air quality, and our water quality, at least. Okay, Leanna, what do you think? Are you there,
About
Leanne?
what? Say that again, about bananas? I love bananas.
No. Explain how you think conservation and stewardship of our natural resources relate to sustainability.
Oh, well, it's absolutely important to conserve our natural resources because we don't want them to run out. Because, I mean, it's a possibility that they could run out in our lifetime. I mean, maybe not in our lifetime, but then again, it could be. And then what about our children and our grandchildren? So being wise stewards of what we have, I think that's the key thing about sustainability.
And that's halfway there.
Right.
And the reason that's halfway is because if you conserve so you don't run out, that's a problem because we want to conserve and be sustainable so everybody never runs out. See, that's the next step beyond conservation is actually planning for the future in such a way that we can't run out. Okay?
Right.
That's a slightly different way of looking at things. I know most of us, almost every one of us in the scouting movement is a conservationist. Otherwise, kind of why would we do it? We love the forest, we love the natural environment, we love the air and the water. And so yeah, it's very interesting. Okay, so here's one of the things you guys are going to have to do. This has a lot to do with talking to the families too, of course. You're going to have a family meeting, and you're going to ask family members to write down what they think sustainability means. And you're going to need to take notes because you're going to use that again for your requirement 5. And so as you can probably tell, I'm going to keep notes on who does what and where they are on that. Now, people like Tate and Addie are kind of lucky because they can have a combined family meeting and get both of them to knock it out at the same time. Right, Addie?
Absolutely.
Because we're both here.
Anyway, that's going to be one of your chores, and I think you should be able to do that by next week. What do your family think? It's such a big question, and a lot of times we don't think of it in that big of a way. Okay, so do that, and we're going to kind of go on now to the next requirement. And one of the things that we can run out of, we need to make more sustainable, is very clearly water. It's amazing. Right now in the western states, as you guys might or might not know, we're in a 20-year drought. And, the snowpack in the mountains is running out. The water flow in the Colorado River, which feeds both Arizona and Colorado, as well as Mexico, that's down to the third of what its historical flow rates are. And there's been so little water in California that's feeding all those wildfires, etc. They've already had wildfires there that burnt the size of the state of Rhode Island. The forest fires are a big deal, and a lot of that has to be because we don't have enough water in the natural system. Also, if we don't use water correctly, if we pollute it, a good example of that, if you have industrial pollution, if it used to be back in the days, and it's this way all in a lot of places in the world. If you have a plant that's making something, let's say something like, or mining, then the tailing ponds just get dumped straight away into the natural rivers and the lakes and the ocean. And it really screws up the water sources, which people have to use to drink. You can't live without water. We've messed up our aquifers here in Texas. Back in the early part of the last century, people used to drill wells to find oil and gas, and they didn't do a good job with sealing the tube holes. And so what happened is you get the different aquifers starting to intermix with each other, and so all these like up in the area where I'm at in George West, that used to be super sweet water, and now it's brackish. It has lots of sulfur in it, natural gas, and it's not nearly as good as it used to be. Well, that's a terrible thing because all those people, all that livestock used to depend upon that water, and we screwed it up. Okay, it wasn't nature screwing it up, people screwed it up. So we have a good ability to screw up water pretty well. The other thing we have a really great ability to do is waste water. And we do that in this country like you wouldn't believe. I've got this book here. I'm going to see if I can find what it said, how many gallons people use in a day as an American family. It's a lot. Well, I might be too, I'm not fast enough to find it, so I'm gonna worry about it. I'm working hard to find it. That means. Okay. Okay, the average American family of 4 uses 400 gallons of water per day at home. 400 gallons. Okay, indoor usage accounts for 70% of this whopping amount and 30% outdoors. That's 146,000 gallons for one family. That's amazing. Less than 1% of all the water on the earth is good enough for people to drink straight away. Okay, otherwise you have to treat it and fix it up. So when we use all that water and waste it, then it's something that we can't use, someone else can't use. We can't share it, we can't use it for the environment, et cetera, et cetera. And I think one of those things, and you look here in our area, and one of the things we're going to be doing is as a family, we're going to discuss, you're going to do this, discuss water usage. And let's see, if I can find what else I was going to talk about here. Well, okay, one of the things that's going to come up here pretty quickly is we're going to talk about what happens with the water that we use here in Corpus, or how do we get it? And where does it come from and where does it go? And this, I think, is a really good example of how something doesn't work well. Where do we get our water? We have the entire drainage of the Nueces River. We have a good portion of the drainage of Lake Texana. We have a good portion of the drainage of the Garwood Irrigation District. We bring that down here. We use our 146,000 gallons a year for a family of 4. And where does that water go after we use it, you think? Where do you think it goes? Addison, where do you think it goes?
It goes into like a sewage thingy. I don't know what they're called. Like the sewage drain thingies.
Yep.
Then eventually they go into like the ocean.
Yeah. So all that fresh water we're using, all 146,000 gallons a year for a family of 4, we're chunking into the ocean. That's pretty amazing, isn't it? So we're basically a one-time user community of this. A lot of communities, like for instance, San Antonio or Austin, what they do is they'll take the water out of the San Antonio River, they'll use it, they'll treat it, and they'll put it back in the San Antonio River so towns downstream can use it. You know, as long as they're treating it and putting in good clean water, that's a great deal. Okay, because then you can actually get more usage out of the water. One of the things that we want to do to be able to be more sustainable is not use our water resources so profligately. We want to be a little bit more sustainable in our water, is a good way of saying it. So one of the things we're supposed to do is we're supposed to develop and implement a plan that attempts to reduce your family's water usage. Okay, so let us talk about that. Where do we think we use our water as a family? Addie, where do you think a lot of the water is used?
For washing our hands,
That's
Showers.
water.
showers, baths, and washing dishes.
Washing dishes. You have any other ideas, Tate?
Car washes.
Okay, car washes. How about you, Lindsay? What do you think?
Like lawn sprinklers and keeping gardens watered.
Yeah, lawn sprinklers and gardens. Ian, what do you think?
Like in pools and sinks.
Sinks. Well, okay. That is very interesting. if we're using that many gallons of water in a day, what did I say? 400? How much? Yeah, 400 gallons a day. I think. What do you think there, Leanna? Where do you think it goes? Where do you think
You
it
mean
comes from and goes?
Oh, you mean what, after we use it, where does it go?
No. How come? Where are we using that much water at?
Flushing the toilet, and dishwashers probably use a lot of water. Showers, I mean, extra long showers. Washing the clothes, the washing machine.
Well, she's hitting on a lot of ways that we can reduce water. I'm not suggesting that we. Back when I was a kid, and we had water kind of brownouts, you want to call it. We used to say, I'm not suggesting this. If it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down. You remember that?
Yeah,
Leanna?
well, my youngest sister did that when she lived in Virginia because they were having water shortages and they saved a lot of money on their water bill doing that. Doesn't smell all that great, but
Yeah, but sometimes you have to, but that's not the point. I'm not asking you about that, although, that's one of the plans you might make. But some of the things like when you brush your teeth, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll leave the water running when they brush your teeth.
yeah. I don't. I turn it off all the time because our water bill, we were watering our garden back in July, and boy, let me tell you, that was expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad to save money this month, from here on out because woo, it was, yeah. So I always tell the kids, turn the water off when you're not using it. I mean, one day Jake in accident left the hose on for like 12 hours. Yeah, that was.
That hit, huh? Well, that's what we're going to do. So we're going to ask everybody to be thinking about the ways in which we use water, and it's okay to use water. We're not saying that. But let's go back to talk about what you're saying about the dishwasher, okay, and washing dishes by hand. We will wash dishes by hand a lot because we like to have them cleaned that way. And when we were doing that, because our water was running through the whole house and it would cool off real quick, we'd leave the water running the whole time we were doing the dishes. So basically, I would leave a rinse water hot that way. That used a ton of water. Whereas a dishwasher does not use that much water. But if you want to save even more water in dishwasher, fill it up. Make sure you're doing the dishwasher full. That saves a lot of water too. Make sure when you're doing your laundry, you're not just washing your favorite pair of jeans. Make sure you do a full load because that will conserve water. Make sure when you're brushing your teeth, you turn the water off. A lot of people back in the old days used to take in a glass of water and fill it half full, and that's what they use for brushing their teeth with. And that worked out pretty good. So there's lots of ways to save water, and what you guys are supposed to be doing in this requirement is you're supposed to be thinking about the ways in which you and your family uses water and how then you can cut it down. Reduce it and not impact your quality of life. Okay, what we're talking about here is developing practices that are still pleasing to live with, but actually go a long way towards sustainability. That's what we're talking about here. And so things like when you're talking about watering the garden or the yard, the garden is a little different if it's a garden for vegetables. I know one of the things down here I see all the time is people watering their yards, okay, watering the grass. That is a lot of water you're putting on something which I guess it's a vanity purpose or something like that. That's what I think it is. But what we do is we mow the grass, and then we do the next week we mow the grass, and the week after that we mow the grass. Eventually, the kinds of grasses that grow in that yard are green, because they're used to the droughty conditions we have down here. And our yard looks just as green as anybody else's. but we don't water it. So, you know, and that was on purpose a conservation practice that we decided to do. And so things like that. So I'd like you to do, this is the next one. So I'm going to have two things I'm going to have you do out of this one, okay? And I want you to develop a plan, and then I want you to talk to your family about it and see if your family can pull out your water bill. So you can get a feeling of how many gallons your family of, in the case of the Prutskis, there's a family of 4. In the case of the Wilsons, there's a family of 5. Okay, the Kings, a family of 4. And I guess Ian, your family's 4. Okay, so you can get a feeling on how much water you're using in a month. Okay, so you can see how you're doing relative to the average. And then kind of talk about how you're using it and where you as a family think it's going, and then develop a plan and implement the plan and see if you can reduce it. That was attempts to reduce it. Now you don't, one of the things.
Hey, Dan?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to leave. Their volleyball's almost over. So is this what they have to do, 1 and 2?
Yes, or A and, well, actually this is A and, yes, that's right.
Okay, A and B?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And then the other thing is, as a family, this is the last part of it after you had a discussion, as a family, choose 3 ways to help reduce consumption, okay? And that's what you're going to try to implement and see if it makes a difference. Okay?
I got it. I took a screenshot of it.
That's great.
Okay.
And then what you guys are going to do is you're going to implement those ideas for 1 month and see if it makes a difference. If it makes a difference, it does. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But what that'll tell you then is that the things you chose are not the things that are going to make the biggest difference. That's what it's telling you. So that's exactly what the scientific method is being able to do that kind of stuff. Okay, well, actually, as far as I'm concerned, that's quite a bit for the first day. I don't want to get you guys too schooled out. Any questions about this? Okay, well, I did make a video of this, so I'll give it to Leanna, and she'll send it to everybody. Okay, so you can go back and look at this and see how we're starting it out. But this is a very interesting merit badge, I think, and one that's I think is important for us in our time. Because we are in the position now, in my opinion, it's just an opinion, based on facts that we see, is that we are in a position of climate change, and that's going to make the sustainability for our world a little bit more challenging than it would have been otherwise. Okay, so we just have to kind of keep this in mind as we live our lives. Any questions?
I'll say one thing before you go. If you want a copy of this workbook, it's online at usscout.org, and you can download it as a PDF or as a Word file. So if you want to download a Word file, right on it. Fine.
Yep, and Miss Charlotte's going to give that to Leanna so she can text it to everybody. Because that's what we're doing, we're going through the workbook. And don't worry, Addie, it's only 21 pages long.
Awesome.
Yay!
All right, Daddy. I'll let you read 20 and a half pages. I'll read.
Okay. You see what I'm pointing at right now?
We're on page 2 of 21.
Yeah, 2 of 21. Okay, well, it's not that bad. It sounds a lot worse than it is. Okay, well, we'll see you guys next Monday. And remember, we're preparing for a camping trip now. We're going to go to tubing on the San Marcos River at the end of September. Are you going to be able to come too, Lindsay?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. Oh, that's too bad. Okay, well, we'll see y'all.
Bye, guys.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.